Music artists put out a lot of albums, and sometimes they put out albums that are really good that just don't get the attention that they should have. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 albums from 5 different artists that put out albums that just didn't do as well as they should have. We're going to start with the first album, Something Wild by Radiator Hospital. This album is primarily an alternative punk album. That being said, the 6 of the 13 songs that are pretty rock heavy are surrounded by songs that are much softer and more acoustic. These slower songs really help keep things light and interesting throughout the run of the album. The overarching themes of this album take you on a journey of a man that has a very unhealthy relationship with a girl. And it takes you through many scenes that feature the feelings, thoughts, and emotions of the writer before, during, and after the relationship. We see him developing a parasocial relationship with her through scenes that he knows in movies, which then moves things into actual relationships with her. That then leads to her leaving him altogether and his attachment to her as she moves on to other relationships. Despite this questionable narrative, the music itself is totally worth the listen. It may not be an album for everyone, but it is one that I recommend very highly. If you like cleaner, more polished productions, this may not be your favorite, but I still recommend you giving it a listen. Maybe it'll grow on you and you'll like it more than you expected. When I first listened to it, I didn't particularly care for it. I thought the whiny vocals were just really hard to listen to, but the more that I listened to it, the more that I realized I really enjoyed the really whiny vocals, and I couldn't get enough of them. Plus, all the instrumentation is just so good that I just kept coming back to it. It's very catchy, and I just can't find myself listening to it enough. For the second album on this list, we have Cold Front's Forever Whatever. This album is infectiously upbeat. When I initially listened to this album for the first time, I listened to it in the middle of winter during a snowstorm, and every single time that I listened to it, it just made me feel like if I stepped outside, I would be instantly at the beach. I just felt so warm and comforted and ready to go outside in the middle of this snowstorm. I just wanted to soak up the sun. Unlike the last album, we aren't quite met with such a straightforward story. If anything, we have an album that's just a mix of topics such as relationships, being young, and also getting older. Nothing that's extremely compelling, but nonetheless still a great time. Again, this is an album that I highly recommend, and you should definitely check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Next album. This album is John Rubin's Word of Mouth. This one's one of our older albums on the list, almost 20 years old at this point. It's also the only rap album on the list. That being said, it doesn't have your traditional beats for a rap album. It has more of a focus on instruments and their instrumentation than it does drum beats and bass lines like rap music of today. For example, the song Make Money Money features samples from both banjo and acoustic guitar, which to me I think just helps keep things light and entertaining. John Rubin started his career heavily focused on faith and Christianity. On this album, he does not focus on those things, as he focuses more on government, corporate success, and just making it in the music industry. And what's really nice about this album is that there is no language in it at all, and there are no themes of overt sexuality, which has been done a lot in rap music and hip hop, and it's just kind of nice to have some different things being talked about. So many memorable parts of this album, so many one-liners that just hit that I think about on a regular basis. I can't recommend this album enough. Totally check it out. And we take another genre shift with this next album, Norma Jean versus the Anti-Mother. This is the first album that introduces the metalcore subgenre. And if anyone watching this video is familiar with metalcore, you've probably heard of Norma Jean, and why this album doesn't get more attention, I don't understand, because 3 of the songs were written with the guys from the Deftones. The Deftones? Like, super popular band, the Deftones? Why didn't that get enough attention? It should have, and it needs to. Now to speak more about the album, this album is very rhythmic and melodic, and Cory Brandon, the vocalist, does a really great job at creating infectious choruses that, despite the heaviness of the sound, you're still able to sing along with, like in the song Robots 3, Humans 0. Now the instrumentals on this album aren't necessarily the heaviest thing that's ever happened, but the grooves and breakdowns on it are still enough to get the boys pushing in the mosh pits. And if you're wondering what an anti-mother is, in an interview, the band does talk about that, and they say that the anti-mother is anything that is deceptive, but yet possesses an outwardly beautiful nature. Now, the lyrics on this album are a lot less straightforward and much more poetic. It's very open for interpretation of what they mean on each song. And if you like metal and you haven't heard this album, totally give it a listen. And if you don't like metal and you haven't listened to this album, totally give it a listen. I recommend it either way. Broaden your horizons, listen to something new. That's all I gotta say. Now for the last album on this list, Relient K's Forget and Not Slow Down. This is a band that I grew up listening to, and this album has just been overshadowed by albums like and Five Score. Both really great albums, and they have their place, but why did we not listen to this one? This one is so good. Being another album that deals with the themes of relationships, Matt Thiessen is a very clever lyricist that paints pictures of great introspection within those themes that are also surrounded by instruments that just make you feel warm and comfortable. The instrumentation on this album is incredible. Every song on this album is constructed with such excellence. Relient K has always had a great ability to write songs that go from really rocky to extremely soft at the snap of a finger. And they can take you on this emotional journey with just the music itself. They don't even have to say anything. Once those chords start hitting, you just like, wow, I didn't know I had these feelings, especially with no lyrics tied to them. And then once they do start singing on top of those chords, wow, like you had no idea that you could feel the things that you felt. You didn't know you could search that deep inside of you and learn that you felt that way. You're gonna learn some things about yourself that you didn't know. These guys have always been incredible musicians, and they continue to flex their musical prowess and deliver a listening experience with such perfection. I have listened to this album probably 1,000 times, and I'll probably listen to it 1,000 more. And it never fails to impress me. And it never fails to make me feel the things that I feel. And it never fails to surprise me on the feelings that I have inside of me. If there's an album on this list that you need to check out, it's this one. And if you don't check out any of the albums on this list, it needs to be this one. Do yourself a favor, listen to this album front to back, don't skip a single song, and just be in awe of the sounds that you're hearing. They're gonna make you feel so warm and so comfortable, and yet so vulnerable. And none of that's a bad thing. Seriously, check this one out. It's my highest recommendation. Well, that concludes today's video. That is the 5 albums that I have to offer today, and I'll have more videos in the future of more albums. If there are albums that you listen to that you think didn't get enough credit, let me know, and maybe I'll make a video of your guys' suggestions. I never get tired of listening to albums, and I want to know what you guys are listening to. So again, thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you next time. I'll see you later.